High-ticket sales can be incredibly confusing, and that confusion is likely costing you upwards of 10K on a weekly basis and potentially even 50K on a monthly basis. Now, I know that that seems quite excessive, but here is a prime example. This is a gentleman named Joe. He jumped into my product about 2 weeks ago, and in that space, as a result of the information that I have shared with him, he has managed to add $40,000 to his monthly recurring revenue. And so in this video, I'm gonna help to simplify the confusion that you might be facing around high ticket sales and show you the core skills that you need to master in a tier list so that you're able to close more deals and scale your business. Okay, so we have got 17 different skills that I really want you to focus on when you are taking your high ticket sales course. And the first one is the most important one. I absolutely love this. This is all about being client focused. And without question, this is an S tier skill. And the reason why I'm saying this is when I first started in high ticket sales, I didn't have the level of understanding you probably do at this point in time around scripts, around frameworks, around around how to take the calls. And because I was able to just do this one thing, which was to care about my prospects, I made Charlie Morgan $100,000 in my first month as a closer because I was able to build trust and I was able to build rapport with my prospects, which meant that I was able to push them harder on the calls, handle objections easier, and get them to buy because they believed in the fact that I believed that it was genuinely the best decision for them to make. And so if you are struggling to close on your calls right now, I really, really do mean this. If you're able to get better at being client focused and caring about your prospects and matching your tonality with that energy and that emotion, without question, you will start closing more deals immediately. Now, the next thing that I want to dive into, and I mean, this one also is an S tier skill. Like, we've got to put it up there. It is active listening. Now, if you don't understand what active listening is you not just paying attention to what the prospect is saying, but trying to understand why they are saying those certain things. Why did they use that tonality when they said that sentence? Why did they use that particular word in the sentence instead of something else? I cannot begin to explain to you how important this is because there is so much more information that is conveyed in the way that something is said as opposed to what is just said unto itself. And when you get really good at this skill, not only does objection handling become a lot easier because you see objections coming from a mile off because you are literally in the prospect's head, but also when it comes to the pitch and when it comes to discovery, those aspects of the call become a lot easier too because you start identifying a lot sooner where the prospect's hesitations, where their reservations, where their concerns lie. So please, please, please focus on the active listening side of things. Now, just to make sure that you understand all of this in depth, by the way, if you want to have a full breakdown of what all of these skills actually look like, just comment the word skills under this video and I will send you a complete breakdown of all of these different skills so you can understand them in more depth. But let's continue. So the next one is script mastery. Now, I'm not entirely sure how I feel about this. I would put this somewhere between C tier and B tier. I'll put it in B tier for now. But it's really not as important as you might think it is, especially when it comes to the script side of things in this market. A lot of the reason why people are sending you scripts is just because it's marketing tactics. Like the biggest issue with scripts is they saturate. You've probably heard the script, heavy is the head that wears the crown, or you've heard the script, is money the problem, or do you think that money is the symptom of the problem? And if someone was to use that type of script with you on a sales call, you'd be like, oh, bro, I can see exactly what you're doing, which is gonna lower trust, which is gonna lower rapport, which is going to increase sales resistance. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. In the early stages, scripts are very useful because they help you to get an understanding of how you should be tackling objections or how you should be going about taking other areas of the call. But the key thing that you do want to do if you're using a lot of scripts on your sales calls is to make sure that you do learn them off by heart. Because again, if you don't, you're not able to put emotion into your words. And as I've already told you, the way that something is said is as important as what is said unto itself. And that is also true on your side. And so if you're not putting passion or emotion into your words and you sound robotic, I promise you the scripts are not going to land. Now, the last thing that I want to touch on when it comes to the script side of things, scripts are really, really powerful when it comes to pitching for the point that I have just said. If you know exactly what you are supposed to say when it comes to the pitch, you can put so much passion and emotion and conviction into your words when you are pitching. And honestly, emotion drives action. So the more emotion that you can put into your pitch, the better. They're also really useful when it comes to the line of questioning. You do need to be somewhat dynamic when you are taking your line of questioning. But if you are a newbie and if you really don't understand anything about sales, scripts will help you, but make sure that you learn them off by heart. Now, getting the prospect to avoid pain avoidance and also you not engaging in pain avoidance, I kind of want to put this between A and B tier. I'm going to put it in A. It is really important because, one, if you allow for your prospects to engage in pain avoidance, then the reality of the situation is they're not going to have sufficient urgency, the urgency that they need to buy. But the other key thing is, and I might even put the you not engaging in pain avoidance side of things into S tier. If you're engaging in pain avoidance and that pain avoidance prevents you from asking the difficult questions or challenging the prospect when you need to, or giving up on the sales call because you're tired or you just feel like the deal is not going to close, it's going to make it so much harder for you to actually get deals across the line. And so it's a two-way street, to be honest with you. You need to ensure that you are being congruent and that you are holding yourself accountable to not engaging in pain avoidance. And in doing that, it will also make it easier for you to ask that of your prospects as well. So this is something that you definitely do want to focus on. Okay, the next one is identifying smoke screens. Not going to lie to you, this one is also super important. We'll put this up in B tier. I kind of want to place that behind the pain avoidance side of things. If you do not know how to identify smoke screens, and you probably don't, but if you do not know how to identify smoke screens on your high ticket sales calls, your calls are going to be an absolute shambles, right? Because your prospects are going to be able to lie to you. They're going to send you down a rabbit hole dealing with a money objection when they actually have a fear objection, which is going to eat up into the time that you have available to close. It's going to cause the call to stagnate and is eventually going to put you in the position where you lose the deal. Now, the key thing when it comes to identifying smoke screens is just asking yourself, does this logic stack up? And this loops back to the whole thing of being engaging in active listening, right? You want to add all of the context that you have gathered thus far on the call and see, does the statement that the prospect is making right now actually make sense? Because if it doesn't make sense, you're probably dealing with a smokescreen. So the easiest way to go about bypassing or at least identifying smokescreens is to just ask more questions. You've got to keep digging for more information, and especially if you recognize within yourself that it doesn't make sense what it is that you're dealing with, that means that you're being lied to, and then you need to not engage in pain avoidance so that you can overcome that specific objection. Okay, next thing is strategic questioning. Let's be honest with one another. Strategic questioning is an S tier skill. Now, if you don't understand what strategic questioning is, it is you asking a series of questions so that you can work towards the reframe, or so that you can work towards the close. Okay. Now, the key thing with this is the questions that you're asking early on are really just there to help you set the scene, to make sure that you understand the prospect's beliefs, that they agree that they believe in those beliefs. And that last question that you are asking is the most powerful question that you are asking, which is going to lead to the reframe or lead to the close. Long story short, it's your ability to be able to see the conversation play out ahead of time so that you can set traps for the prospect, so it's easier for you to overcome objections and for you to get deals across the line. Again, if all of this just sounds a little bit too wishy-washy, because I've got like a 2-hour-long video explaining all of these in more depth, which unfortunately I am not going to give you access to. But if you do want to understand these things in a little bit more depth, again, comment skills under this video and I will send you a full breakdown of all of these skills in more detail. Okay, cool. Next one is tactical empathy. Now, tactical empathy is really important, but I'm going to put this as a B tier skill, definitely ahead of script mastery. In terms of tactical empathy, say for example, when you're dealing with a bad past experience, is you just leaning more into, as the name suggests, empathizing with the prospect to help you to build trust, to help you to build rapport, to lower sales resistance. If a prospect tells you that they've spent 50 grand on previous agencies or previous mentoring and it hasn't worked, and you just immediately start diving into your reframe, you're going to lose a ton of trust. But in that situation, if you lean in tactically with empathy, and this needs to be genuine, by the way, you lean in and you say, hey, look, I'm really sorry to hear that you faced X, you faced Y, you faced Z. It's going to make it a lot easier for you to get the prospect to open up and be real with you so that you can understand what actually happened so that you're able to close the deal. So this is definitely a skill that is super important for you to master, but in comparison to the other ones, I wouldn't say it is as important. Now, speaking in absolutes, got to be real with you, this is definitely an A tier skill. I would place it here. This is accurate. So the reason why speaking in absolutes is so important, and speaking in absolutes, just to explain what this is. Speaking in absolutes is you using assertive words in your language. It's saying things like, without question, I am 100% certain, I'm extremely confident, without a shadow of a doubt, all of that type of stuff. The reason why that's really important throughout the entirety of the call is that gently, you are going to be moving the needle and building the prospect's confidence. So by the time you work your way to the close, they have way more conviction than they would if you were using really tentative language like essentially or basically or like. Those types of words suggest that you have hesitation, suggest that you have doubts. And again, as I've already said, sales is all about the transference of emotion. And so if you want your prospects to feel confident on your calls, you need to speak in a confident way. Now, the one caveat with speaking in absolutes is you shouldn't be using that skill if you can't actually back up what you're saying, right? So if you were to sell appointments and you're saying, I know without question, with ease, we can get you 100 appointments on a weekly basis. If that's not fucking true, don't say it. But in the areas where you do have a lot of confidence around your product or around your service, please lean into this, because again, I promise you, it's going to make it a lot easier for you to get deals across the line. Now, next one, tonality. You can tell I'm an absolute nerd when it comes to sales, by the way. Tonality, I mean, let's be honest, this is an S tier skill, and not only is it an S tier skill, it is one of the most important skills that you can use on your high ticket sales calls. As I've been yattering on about, like, sales is all about the transference of emotion. If you're talking in a really monotone way all the time when you're on your sales calls and you sound really fucking boring to listen to, people are not going to want to buy from you. Like that kind of energy that I have just showed you probably made you want to click off the video, right? It's the same thing when you are on your calls. In the line of questioning, you need to be leaning in with a curious tone, because in doing so, subconsciously, you will get the prospect to open up more, because they can see that you actually care about their situation and you want to understand things in more depth. When it comes to the pitch, you want to be speaking with passion and with conviction. If you want your prospects to have conviction, if you speak from a place of conviction, it's going to be a lot easier for you to be able to make that happen. And when it comes to the objection handling phase, I mean, there's a range of different tones that you might use, as I've already talked about, when it comes to empathy, or it could be passion, or it could be sympathy, or it could be curiosity. There's so many different things that you can do with your tonality. It's really, really, really fucking important that if you want to be good at sales, that you master your ability to play around with your tonality. Now, just to give you a little bit more clarity on what actually what your tonality consists of is, first and foremost, it's you playing around with your cadence. Now, what do I mean by playing around with your cadence? As you might have noticed, I'm taking more pauses in my sentence. That is your cadence. It's the gaps that you leave between specific words so that you are able to make things sound more dramatic. right? It's you holding that silence after you make a big point, so it gives the prospect time to absorb that information. It's also your pitch. Like you might notice that my voice is going all over the place. Like sometimes it's all the way up here, sometimes it's all the way down here. It's the volume that you use when you are speaking. Sometimes you are speaking quietly, especially when you are dealing with fear objections. You want to soften your tone, right? Because you're dealing with something sensitive. When you're talking from a place of passion, or you have something that you're super, super confident about, you want to be a little bit louder when you are speaking. And the last thing, although there are more things, but the last thing that I will touch on is gravitas, right? Even the way that I delivered the word gravitas is I'm highlighting the word, I'm pulling the word out of the sentence so that the prospect knows to pay attention to it. And looping back to the whole active listening thing, you'll notice subconsciously your prospects will do the same thing. I want to give you a prime example of how important as well not active listening, how important gravitas is within the context of active listening, right? So let's say we're going with the sentence, I didn't say that he crashed the car, right? See how me placing gravitas on different words completely changes the meaning of the sentence. I didn't say that he crashed the car. I didn't say that he crashed the car. I didn't say that he crashed the car. I didn't say he crashed the car. I didn't say he crashed the car. I didn't say he crashed the car, right? All of those are completely different sentences. And what you want to do, especially when it comes to the tonality piece, is to start mastering that ability to highlight different words to bring, again, more information to the conversation. Okay, next thing is guarantees. Guarantees, I would say, are B tier. They are really important and they are going to help you to close deals. I'm going to put this ahead of script mastery. Guarantees are really important when you're dealing with fear objections, okay? But the reality of the situation is you don't want to rely exclusively on guarantees to be able to overcome the fear objections that your prospects may have. Guarantees really should be used as either a closing tactic after you've overcome all of the particular objections that you're facing, and use that as a way to push them over the edge, or as a light way to build confidence for your prospects. But in comparison to some of the other things that we're talking about, they're not that important. Okay, next thing is case studies. Case studies, I'm gonna put these in beta, and not only am I going to put these in beta, I'm going to put this at the beginning of beta. And the reason why case studies are obviously so powerful is because people want to see that your product has worked for other people. Now, the core mistake that everybody makes, over the 700 clients that I have coached, the core mistake that everybody makes is they don't tailor their case studies. And in doing that, by not tailoring your case studies, you take away all the power that they hold. Now, how do you go about tailoring your case studies to your prospects? What you want to focus on is aligning their particular pain points or their particular goals or their particular location, whatever it might be, with the most relevant case studies you have. And this is why I hate when people use a fucking pitch deck, because when you use a pitch deck, it puts you in the position where all of your case studies are standardized. It doesn't necessarily mean that the one that you are presenting is the best one for the prospect, right? So when you're doing your case studies, make sure that you tailor it to the prospect. And the other thing is, when you're handling objections, or when you are overcoming or tackling questions, I should say, those are often amazing opportunities for you to leverage case studies. If someone's had concerns around the lead quality side of things on your call, and you've had a client who was also concerned around the lead side of things when they jumped onto a call, that's the perfect time after you've answered the question, explain the process, to bring up John and say, hey, look, John was in the exact same situation as you. When I spoke to him, he was concerned about the lead quality side of things. He was making 5K on a monthly basis. And after us taking him through this process, we were able to get him to 30K because we were consistently delivering high quality leads. Okay, cool. Analogies. I mean, this one is so powerful. Let's be real. This is 100% an S tier skill. And I mean, the reason why analogies are so powerful is because you're getting the prospect to apply the logic that they would use in one situation to the current situation, right? And so it does all of the heavy lifting for you if you pick the right analogy, because that process of thinking, that process of decision making has already been grounded. It has already been established for the prospect. Now, this is where a lot of people struggle when it comes to the analogies side of things. They try to use scripted analogies for everyone. It doesn't work. It's the same thing as with the case studies. You need to get this to be aligned with the prospect situation so that you know that it is going to resonate. Because a lot of the time what you guys are trying to do is use a scripted analogy, and it causes there to be misalignment, and the prospect is just like, yeah, I get what you're saying, but this doesn't really apply. So make sure that you're using tailored analogies. This is a whole nother topic, a whole nother video I could talk about. I mean, realistically, we should also have a skill here for lateral thinking, because lateral thinking is super powerful, ties into analogies. Lateral thinking, long story short, is your ability to think like this instead of thinking like this. And what I mean is, when it comes to analogies, you're looking at, say, 4 different options that you have in front of you of the analogy that you could use, and seeing in your mind how that would play out, what concerns, what objections you would face, and then picking the right one that is going to get you to the close as quickly as possible. That is a very, very complicated skill for you to learn, but super powerful, super useful when it comes to leveraging analogies on your course. Tactical silence. Tactical silence, if I'm being honest with you, is going to be the first skill that goes into C tier. Now, you're probably well aware that a lot of people use tactical silence after they price drop. And I'm not going to lie to you, when you're selling B2C, it's super useful because you can pressure the prospect into kind of buying, or at least revealing any objections that they have. But when it comes to the B2B space, bro, like, this is one of the quickest ways that you can lose trust and you can lose rapport. Now, there's other times when you can use tactical silence, as for example, when I was talking about your cadence, you holding silence after you've made a particularly poignant statement, or a statement where you're showing a lot of confidence. That's a great time for you to hold silence so you can let it sink in. But in comparison, again, to some of these other skills, it's not that valuable. Okay, cool. Payment plans. Payment plans, we're going to go B tier for this. And you know what? I'm going to put this is going to go A tier. Now, in terms of payment plans, it's really important that you use these in the right way. This is why I was thinking about this, because payment plans unto themselves are not that powerful, but how you leverage them can be incredibly powerful. Let's say you have the ability to offer a one-time payment plan, obviously a PIF, all the way to a 6-time payment plan. If you just drop that 6x payment plan, what you're going to do is most likely create a value objection. But if you slowly staircase down through those payment plans as you're handling objections, as you're handling questions, you're going to increase the value of your product, you're going to increase confidence, and you're going to lower the resistance the prospect has around actually getting started. So this one is super powerful. Personal stories, I am going to put this in C tier. Don't get me wrong, personal stories are really useful, but they're very context dependent. Again, you're going to use personal stories the vast majority of the time when you are dealing with fear objections. And all you're doing ultimately is just saying to the prospect, hey, I empathize, I resonate with what you were talking about. Here is how I faced this problem myself. And in facing that problem myself, it enabled me to accomplish the goal that you want to accomplish. Good skill to have, but in comparison to the other ones, not that important. Now, binary questions. This is S tier. Let's be honest, this is 100% an S tier skill. The thing about binary questions, and you know what, actually, I'm going to change this to B tier because of this particular caveat. Now, the reason, sorry, not B tier, A tier. The reason why I am putting binary questions in A tier is they are extremely powerful for enabling you to control the conversation and move the conversation in a particular direction. But if you don't use them properly, they are also a weapon that can be used against you by the prospect. What I mean by this is, say for example, with the question, do you have any questions? That is a terrible binary question, okay? Now, just to be clear, a binary question is a question that can only result in one of two answers. So with the question, do you have any questions? There's one or two answers, yes or no. Now, the reason why it's a bad binary question is if the prospect says no, which a lot of the time they are going to do because they are going to default into subconscious thinking, which means that you don't actually reveal any concerns or questions that they may have, you're not really moving the needle. Whereas if they say yes, then you have to follow that up with another question, which is, what questions do you have, right? So you've just wasted time. So the better question to ask in this situation, and a good binary question example would be, what questions do you have? And the reason why this completely changes the dynamic of the conversation, the pathing, the way that the call could go, is if they say, no, I don't have any questions, then you can be sure that they do not have any questions, because the question unto itself is assumptive. You're assuming that they have questions, and so off the back of that, if they say no, because you're getting them to engage in thinking, because you're saying to them, what questions do you actually have? You could be more certain that they actually don't. Whereas on the other side of this, what questions do you have? If they have a yes, then they are just asking whatever questions they do have. Okay, cool. The last one here, I should have paid more attention to making sure that that was actually something. I don't know what stop I'm fine means. So I hope you have got a ton of value from this video. I'm sure that you want to understand all of these different skills in a little bit more detail. So again, if you do want me to send over a document that breaks all of them down in more depth, just comment skills below. And if you would like to be like Joe, who was able to add $40,000 in monthly recurring revenue to his business in the space of 2 weeks, then feel free to book a call using the link in the bio. We can have a little chinwag, we can have a little chat, see how we might be able to help you to scale up your business as well. But with all of that said, I appreciate your time, and I will see you just